Once upon a time, in a bustling city filled with the sounds of 1,000 different stories, lived a Great Dane named Pepe. Now, Pepe wasn't just any Great Dane. He was tall, of course, with those famously goofy ears and a heart as big as his paws. But inside that giant chest beat the heart of a comedian. Pepe's biggest dream wasn't to chase squirrels or to find the world's largest stick. It was to stand on a stage under a single spotlight and make people laugh until their sides hurt. He spent his days observing the world around him. He saw humor in the way a tiny poodle strutted with immense confidence, the way a beagle would get completely lost in a scent, or the sheer chaos of a flock of pigeons scattering for a single breadcrumb. He'd practice his jokes in front of the mirror, trying out different voices and perfecting his comedic timing. His family thought it was just one of his funny quirks, but Pepe was serious. He was crafting his art, one punchline at a time. His dream had a name and a location: the Howling Hound, the most popular comedy bar in the city. It was a legendary spot, a cozy basement joint where dogs of all breeds gathered to sip on fancy water bowls and listen to the city's funniest canines. The walls were lined with photos of comedy legends: a snarky chihuahua who mastered observational humor, a golden retriever with killer one-liners, and a sheepdog whose shaggy dog stories were, quite literally, epic. One Friday evening, Pepe decided it was time. He mustered all his courage, which for a Great Dane is quite a lot, and trotted down the alleyway to the Howling Hound. The air buzzed with energy and the low murmur of happy barks. Taking a deep breath, he pushed open the swinging door. The place was packed. He saw spaniels, shepherds, terriers, and even a very sophisticated-looking greyhound sipping from a martini glass filled with bone broth. Behind the bar, polishing a glass with a practiced calm, was the owner, a bulldog named Terry. Terry was a legend in his own right. He was short, stout, and had a face that looked permanently unimpressed, but he had an ear for talent. He discovered some of the biggest names in the dog comedy scene. Getting past Terry was the first and most difficult hurdle. Pepe navigated the crowded room, trying his best not to knock over any tables with his perpetually wagging tail. He approached the bar and waited patiently. Terry finished polishing his glass, set it down with a thud, and finally looked up at Pepe. "What can I get for ye, big fella?" Terry grumbled, his voice a low rumble. "Actually, sir," Pepe began, his voice a little shaky, "I'm not here for a drink. I'm here for a shot." Terry raised a skeptical eyebrow. "A shot at the stage," Pepe clarified, his confidence growing. "I'm a comedian. My name is Pepe, and I believe I have what it takes to make this room howl." Terry let out a short, gruff laugh. "A comedian, huh? Kid, I've seen 'em all. I've seen pugs who think their snorts are punchlines and poodles with jokes so fluffy they float away. What makes you think you're any different?" This was Pepe's moment. He looked Terry straight in the eye. "Because my jokes have bite," Pepe said with a grin. "For instance, why don't dogs make good dancers? Because they have 2 left feet and another 2 right feet. It's a logistical nightmare on the dance floor." Terry stared at him for a long, silent moment. Pepe's heart pounded in his chest. Then a slow smile spread across Terry's wrinkled face. It wasn't a huge smile, but it was there. "That's not terrible," Terry admitted. "All right, kid, I like your guts. The next act just canceled. You've got 5 minutes, 5. Don't make me regret this." Pepe's tail started wagging so hard it created a small breeze. "Thank you, Terry, you won't," he exclaimed, before trotting eagerly towards the small, elevated stage. The previous comedian, a beagle with a set about sniffing interesting things, was just finishing up to polite applause. The spotlight hit Pepe, and for a second he was blinded. The faces in the crowd blurred into a sea of furry anticipation. He took a deep breath, just as he'd practiced, and leaned into the microphone. "Hello, Howling Hound," he boomed, his deep voice filling the room. "It's great to be here. Wow, what a crowd! I haven't seen this many different tales in one place since the grand opening of the new fire hydrant downtown." A ripple of laughter went through the audience. Pepe felt a jolt of pure joy. They were with him. "So, I'm a Great Dane," he continued, which is basically like being a walking, talking piece of furniture that occasionally begs for food. My humans are always saying, Pepe, get off the couch. I want to tell them, I am the couch. The room erupted. A husky in the front row was laughing so hard he let out a full-throated howl. Pepe was on a roll. He talked about the existential dread of the mailman arriving every day. He did a bit about the internal monologue of a dog trying to figure out if a thrown ball was a real throw or a fake throw. He acted out the drama of a tiny dog trying to get onto a giant bed. His material was relatable, his delivery was charismatic, and his giant, expressive face sold every single joke. The audience was captivated. They weren't just politely chuckling. They were roaring with laughter. They saw their own lives, their own quirks, their own funny little habits reflected in his comedy. For his grand finale, Pepe said, "They say every dog has his day. Well, I think every day is our day. We just have to convince the humans to give us more treats to celebrate it." The applause was deafening. Cheers and happy barks echoed off the brick walls. Dogs were on their paws, their tails wagging in unison. Pepe took a bow, his heart soaring. He had done it. He had lived his dream. As he stepped off the stage, his paws barely touching the ground, Terry was waiting for him with that same gruff expression, but this time, there was a definite twinkle in his eye. "Kid," Terry said, placing a heavy paw on Pepe's shoulder. "That wasn't just not terrible. That was brilliant. How would you like a regular spot here? Friday nights. You open for me." Pepe was speechless. He could only nod, his tail wagging a mile a minute. And so it began. Every Friday, Pepe took the stage at the Howling Hound, and every Friday, he brought the house down. Word of the hilarious Great Dane spread like wildfire. Soon, other bar owners were calling Terry, asking to book that big fella Pepe. Pepe started performing all over the city. He played at the Salty Shih Tzu, a classy joint by the waterfront. He did a set at the Growler, a rowdy biker bar for German shepherds. He even did a charity gig at the local animal shelter, bringing a little bit of laughter to dogs waiting for their forever homes. His fame grew, but he never forgot where he came from. He remained the same humble, goofy Great Dane who just loved to make people laugh. He proved that no matter how big or small you are, if you have a dream and the courage to chase it, you can light up any room you walk into. Pepe wasn't just a comedian anymore. He was an inspiration, a reminder that sometimes the biggest laughs come from the biggest hearts. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed Pepe's story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing tailies. Let us know in the comments what kind of comedian your pet would be. We'll see you in the next video.